of law, what is it? Well, you've almost certainly heard of it, and if, like me, you're a lawyer, you're probably shuddering at the memory of long essays on the subject. But the UN Secretary General defines law as
a principle of governance in which all persons, institutions and entities, public and private, including the state itself, are accountable to laws and are publicly promulgated, equally enforced and independently adjudicated, and which are consistent with international human rights norms and standards. It requires, as well, measures to ensure adherence to the principles of the supremacy of law, equality before the law, accountability to the law, fairness in the application of the law, separation of powers, participation in decision-making, legal certainty, avoidance of arbitrariness, and procedural and legal transparency.
Let's just say that the modern conception of the rule of law is that the procedure for law creation should be legitimate. The law should be applied fairly and it should provide basic human rights. However, this is not the situation everywhere. There are 4 billion people globally who have limited or no access to the rule of law. 4 billion people whose systems of law are illegitimate, whose laws are unfairly applied and breach their basic human rights. So how does this happen, and how do we stop it? This is what an unjust justice system looks like. The police are corrupt and easily intimidated and turn their eyes from organised crime. The judges are undertrained and overworked. For example, in India there are only 14 judges to every million people. And finally, social workers are under-resourced and have too many cases to effectively deal with any of them. In this situation, organised crime rings rule the streets, perpetrators go unpunished, and there's no way to hold the government to account. Injustice slips through the system, and the justice system is basically non-functional. But what does God have to say about all of this? Well, in Exodus 23, God gives us some pretty clear instructions about how we're to conduct justice. He says we have to give a true and honest testimony in court, that we're never to judge anyone falsely, that we're not to deny justice to the poor, and we're never to accept bribes. And he says that he, the great judge, would never declare an innocent person guilty. So, when a justice system breaks down, God sends his prophets to stand up against corruption and laziness and selfishness. In Proverbs 31, it says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, and for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy." We're called to stand up for those who can't access justice and advocate on their behalf, just as Jesus advocates to the Father for us. This week, on Saturday, Just Love is literally standing up against injustice by standing up in the middle of Oxford for 27 hours straight to raise money and awareness for the 27 million people who are in modern day slavery. We'd love it if you could sign up for a slot, or if you could just come by and donate or pray with us. Also, if you want to find out more about advocacy, check out next week's video, where we'll be talking about how we can use the fact that we have access to the rule of law to stand up for those who don't.